All right, looks like we're experimenting with angles today. And so it's almost like we're chilling in my car together. We're just having a little conversation. It's all good. So what we're talking about today is Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And this is a book by John Gray. And it's meant to illustrate the differences between the two sexes. Because let's be honest, we don't fucking understand each other. And if we did, there'd be a lot more symbiosis in relationships. You see a lot more people staying together. Because it's fucking hard. We don't really get each other. And so this book comes as a recommendation to me through Stephanie Ganowski, who is a female dating coach out of California. I interviewed her about a month ago, and when I went to her blog, I noticed that she has a whole seminar based on this book that she offers to, her clients. So I took it as like, okay, you know what, I need to read this thing. So I'm in the first chapter. I'm listening to it on Audible, and I've got some takeaways from this, just out of this first chapter. So what we're talking about today is two major disconnects in understanding between men and women. And the first one is for women. One thing that you don't understand about men. Now, as I'm listening to this book, it's making generalizations, and I'm listening to it, I'm like, God, like, this is really fucking generalizing us, and it may or may not be totally accurate. But then as I'm relating it to my own life, I'm like, you know what? This shit's true. Like, I totally get it. So the first thing is, it says that men want to feel competent. And part of our competency and our usefulness in the world is us solving our own problems by ourselves, at least up until the point where we've decided in our own mind that we need to ask for help. Okay, so if you as the woman preemptively offer us advice or tell us to ask for help from somebody else, it's insulting to us, and it takes away our chance to demonstrate, if to nobody else, or not even ourselves, to you, that we're a competent person. Because, chances are we're with you because you're this beautiful fucking creature that we love spending time around, that we want to impress, that we want to feel worthy of. And if we're being robbed of our chance to demonstrate our strength to you, it really sucks. Like, we want to be that strong man for you. And so let's do a little example. An example he says in the book is like, okay, well, say you're on a road trip and you're lost, and the guy hasn't yet decided in his own mind that he's lost. He's like, I'm looking at the GPS. I don't really know where the fuck I am, but if I keep going down here, at least I'll figure out, like, if I go down to this next turn, at least I'll know if I need to turn around or not. So he's in the process of exploring. Now, to the woman, it might be like, God, we've been lost for the last 5 minutes. Like, it's probably about time to call, your brother John, who used to live down here, and maybe he can tell us where to go. But, until the man decides that he needs to call, he's still in the process of working it out. So you're preemptively counting him out before he's decided for himself. Okay, now, does this mean that you should not offer critical advice when it really counts? Like, no, of course not. Like, just for the sake of the guy's ego? It's not all about ego. It is a little bit, but it's also about demonstrating strength, which is really important to your significant other too, right? And so obviously there's extremes that you can go to with this, like, oh, we shouldn't tiptoe around the guy's fucking sensitive ego just so he can feel macho. Like, no, that's not what it's about. But the whole point of this book is to understand the motivations and what drives the opposite sexes, and this is a big one for guys. As I listen to this, I'm like, God, like, are we really that bad? Like, we can't fucking take advice? And yeah, like, we can take advice. I love getting advice, like, especially from, say, my current girlfriend. Like, she is fucking amazing. I respect her. She's a business owner. She's got a lot of cool shit about her that I totally fucking value. But let's say, for example, if she kind of preemptively cut in with some stuff before I had the chance to really exercise my own strengths and talents, then I might feel robbed of that chance to prove to her that I'm, a competent fucking guy, right? And so as I thought about this, I'm like, God, you know what? Yeah, this is kind of right. What this book is saying is kind of right. And so that's one takeaway. Women let the guy kind of work shit out on his own, And don't be afraid to offer advice, but be sensitive to the fact that he kind of needs to do this a little bit, okay? And you'll reap the dividends of it, because he will feel respected and cherished by you, and that's a big thing, right? He's going to want to work more for you when that's the case. Okay, so that's one thing. So the other thing is, on the flip side, this is a really hard one, and I did not learn this forever. I fucked this one up big time in my marriage, and that is when women come home at the end of the day, they're talking about their problems. They had, some coworker that pissed them off during the day, or they're having some kind of issue. Us men, we go into problem solve mode, because like we're hearing what you're saying about the bad shit of your day, and in our world, we just want to solve problems so we can move on and fucking do the next thing, right? So when we hear your problems, we want to solve it, and that way we can move on to a place of happiness. But what we're missing is that in the moment, you're genuinely feeling frustration and stress, and you need to feel heard as the woman. And therefore, instead of us going to problem solve mode, we need to go into empathy mode. That's hard for us. So for you to say, hey, so-and-so was a bitch at work today, and she did X, Y, and Z to me, and I'm just feeling really pissed off right now. Instead of us being like, you know what, you should go confront her because, and bring up X, Y, and Z point and just squash it. So instead of us saying something like that, we have to say, oh, you feel that like that? Like, I'm hearing that you're saying X, Y, and Z, and therefore I can really see how that makes you feel like X, Y, and Z. And you know what, honey, I'm sorry, like that's a real shitty, place to be at, and I'm sorry that you feel that way, and I'm here for you. Like, it's hard for us to go from problem solver mode to that mode, but that's something that we have to do, because if you don't feel heard, if you don't feel heard, then like us trying to solve your problems is not what you necessarily want in the moment. Now sometimes you might, but it's on us, men, to solicit from the woman, hey, do you want advice, or do you just want to feel heard? And don't ask it in this like snide way, like, hey, do you want help or not? No, it's like, do you want me to kind of weigh in on this, or do you just want me to be here for you? Because I'm down for that. And if we can just be there for the woman, it's the same thing for us as, being able to work through our problems. I think these are two great fucking insights. So this is what I'm getting out of this first chapter as I'm listening to this book. I'm still in the beginning of this thing, but as I get these little takeaways, I'm going to share that here in the group. And I thought that'd be really cool to offer up today. So like I said, like in my marriage, like I fucked that second one up big time. Like I would always go into problem solve mode, and I can't imagine how unheard my ex-wife would have felt. Now I was there for her a lot too in other ways, but I never made the distinction that sometimes women just want to vent. So the more that we can understand each other, the better relationships we can have. And I think it's fucking huge. So anyway, tell me what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. By all means, this isn't a Bible. I think all this stuff, this relationship advice in the books, that we read, etc., it's all up for grabs, right? Because we all have our own life experiences. We may or may not connect to a certain piece of this stuff. And by all means, like, you have to use your own judgment, figure out what you're going to adopt, figure out what you want to throw away. And my first kind of reaction to this book was like, you know what? Like, I don't know if I jive with some of these generalizations, but then I thought about it a little bit more. I'm like, you know what? Just because I don't like hearing it, because it puts me in this kind of weird light, doesn't mean that when I look at my own behavior that it doesn't sync up. And I think that's what's interesting. So anyway, get your copy of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus if you want to read along. Otherwise, I'll share these videos here. Tell me your thoughts, and hope everybody has a great week.